Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the MLS Now podcast. I'm your host, Russell. You can find me on social media at Mr. Dangerous, but more importantly, you can find the podcast on social media at MLS Now Podcast. But even more importantly, but wait, there's more. That's right, folks. You have not just one, not just two, but three amazing people on the podcast today. Myself, of course, being one of them, but, we're taking it up a notch. We know that people love spicy content. We know that people love absurd takes, which is why we brought someone who embodies neither of those. You can find him on social media at LionsBlog1. Gavin, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. Yeah, I was a little worried with the spicy content aspect of that statement. I'm not in the spicy content realm at all, thankfully. Doing good. I'm doing good.
Well, you're not, but luckily that segues us perfectly to our spicy content specialist. Some people are, throw-in specialists in the game of soccer. Some people are corner kick specialists. Eric Ramsey was the set piece specialist for Manchester United, and Minnesota have not done great on set pieces since he took over. But, we have not been doing too great on spicy content. Like you said, Gavin, you're not great at it. So we're bringing in David once again. Remember, you can find David on the podcast handle at MLS Now Podcast. David, come please save us. We need all of the fire. We need all of the spice. We need takes that people are going to, be drinking their coffee in the morning on their morning commute. I need you to say something absurd during this episode to make them spit it out. And then we're going to be getting legal correspondence being like, hey, you made me spit my coffee out on a commute and it went all over my windshield and caused a real issue. So David, welcome. I'm looking forward to what you have for us today.
Good evening. Last time I got heavily criticized on my steak take. You can only eat it well done. Anything else is trash. Today I tell you, if you are in a calorie deficit, get a junior smoothie, a tropical smoothie. You might have to wait 15 to 20 minutes because their customer service sucks. And it's okay, I already tweeted at them. No future sponsor coming, but it was worth it.
Well, fortunately, the George Foreman Grill Institution will be sponsoring us with your well done steaks take. Now, unfortunately, the James Beard Awards and the foundation will not be sponsoring us at all because they're going to be like, well done steaks. These guys don't know food. So, but it doesn't matter. We're going to get that George Foreman money. So there we go. Hey, guys, I'm glad that we have all three of us on here. But I'm even more glad because we get to talk some soccer. We had a crazy weekend, and we're going to lead into that by not talking about the weekend at all. Guys, CONCACAF Champions Cup is going on. Just in case you forgot, because we had a whole bunch of matches over the weekend. Last week, we also saw Colorado versus LAFC, Herediano versus Real Salt Lake, Antigua versus Seattle, SKC versus Miami, Motagua versus Cincinnati, and Deportivo Saprissa versus Vancouver. Anyone have any thoughts individually, potentially about RSL crashing out to Herediano? Big upset.
They had to redeem themselves this last weekend, and I know we're going to talk about that. Excuse me. Complete embarrassment. There's always a team, an MLS team, not even a Mexican side team. There's always an MLS team that embarrasses you in the first round. There's always that one team. Every year when CONCACAF Championship comes along, there's always that one MLS team that gets beaten by a Central American team. And no shade to the Central American teams. It's just the style of play RSL did was complete trash. No identity. No fire under their butts. It's almost like they didn't care, and I get it, it's their second, third game or whatever, but still, they looked horrible. Horrible. I almost took away the handle MLS Now podcast and put RSL sucks. I almost did that. That's how bad it was. It was embarrassing. And you got somebody over here tweeting at us saying, you're wrong about them in the playoffs. We're going to prove you guys. No, you guys suck. It's trash. And we're going to talk about what happened this weekend. They did good, whatever, because they did it to redeem themselves from that embarrassment over last week.
I'm going to throw
trash right there.
I'm going to throw some water on the flames of that spicy take, David. I thought the first half they were pretty good. They weren't amazing, but they were the better team on the day. They got the first goal. They could have scored before that first goal, but we know they have execution in the final third problems. But they do eventually get that first goal. They go 1-0 up, and things are looking good. They are now the favorites to go through. They are going through at that point in time. But that second half, man, David, retweet everything you just said on the second half performance. It was abysmal. And just they gave up a goal. It got taken off because of a correctly VAR called foul that wasn't called initially. The ref probably thought the player got the ball, but he didn't. He got all man. So they score a goal. That should have been a wake up call for RSL. Instead, it was just a sign of things to come for Herediano. They get the ball in the back of the net again, 1-1. Now RSL are chasing, obviously, last second penalty, whatever. 1-1, 2-1, it's no difference. Herediano are through. RSL are this year's MLS team to disappoint, like you said, David.
Gavin said something. He said they were the better team in the first half. They were supposed to be the better team. Like, it was their obligation to be the better team. Again, no shade thrown to Central American teams. I'm from Central America. I know how bad they are. RSL was supposed to be the better team, so that's why it doesn't surprise me. That's why I'm not giving them any credit, because it was already written that they were supposed to be the better team. But it was just, I don't know. It's almost like they didn't care for their fans in that game. But Russell, I'll let you have your take here.
Nah, the take has been said. Like that. Look, I feel like, we've been on the Pablo, is he the right guy? Is he the wrong guy? Train for a while. And like, I don't know. I don't know what else you can do if you're Salt Lake at this point. Like, you can say, oh yeah, well, he doesn't have the players. Okay, but when he had the players, they weren't winning anything anyways. Like, what is it about Salt Lake or the management there that just it's a downward spiral? Just always. Like, I don't know where it gets better. Like, yes, good, you redeemed yourself midweek. I have thoughts on that. We'll talk about that later. But I don't see how it gets better for RSL.
DPs, bringing in DP talent. That's where it gets better. I mean, Diego Luna obviously didn't start this game. He came in off the bench. He didn't look great. He hasn't had the best start to the season. We know he's coming off injury, yada yada. But I think DP talent in the attacking third is what they need. They have some already. It's not enough. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with RSL in the transfer window. That already my eyes are on the transfer window. Maybe it's a little too early, but
no,
yeah.
it's not. Already, the transfer window is not even closed yet. It's the crazy part.
No, it's not. It's not. But do you have any faith that they're going to do something before?
No, not at all.
Okay, there we go.
Not a chance.
Can we talk real quick about Vancouver Whitecaps turning around a 2-1 deficit real quick?
Only very briefly, because to David's point, I think we all should have expected Vancouver to be the better team, and yet somehow, until they had scored that first and even second goal, I didn't have any faith that they were going to be the better team on the night. Like, I was looking at it like, how are they going to throw this away? How are they going to give this up?
Doesn't that point to a new Vancouver Whitecaps? There's something different about them this season.
No, there's not.
Yes, there is. I don't feel like they have that soft. They don't look like to me that they have that soft underbelly that they had with Vanni Sartini. This is a tie that Vanni Sartini loses.
From what you've seen so far, can they compete against any team?
Vancouver?
In MLS.
They can compete. They're not going to beat every team, but they can compete.
Which is insane, considering I'm pretty sure Vancouver's sitting 2-0 in the league right now.
Okay, they've played who? Who have they played? LA Galaxy and... Why can't I remember the first game already?
I thought it was Portland.
Oh yeah, a red-carded Portland. Thank you, Russell.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's be
So they
real.
played a team without a striker, without Ricky, and another team
Down to 10 men.
with with Neville as a coach.
Yeah.
Right. So basically 9 men.
So we haven't seen enough of them in MLS play, but the
But
vibe I have, because we'll talk about LAFC later, it was a tough game. They stuck through it. They didn't have that soft, they're going to give up a goal. You feel it. And against Deportivo Saprissa, they came through on the other side. So I just want to give some credit their way.
well, yes, but here's the downside to it. Brian White has used 2 of his very limited goals remaining for the year in this match.
I mean, Pedro Vite has used a lot of his very limited assists as well, but they keep coming. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, but yeah, into 2 weeks. You know what, Gavin? Let's save the Vancouver slander for later. You might be able to tell I'm changing my West Coast focus this year. As you're gonna notice later on, because I've got a team that I've been really enjoying watching on the West Coast. But enough of that, Gavin. We have a proper agenda to follow here. And our agenda begins with a correspondent corner from Bryce Leslie. You can find him on social media at bleslie19 in regards to the Charlotte FC versus Atlanta match. Gavin, I believe he texted that to you because I was shocked that we had a correspondent corner because I didn't see it.
Yeah, I'll read it out to kick us off for this game. This is Bryce's thoughts from an Atlanta perspective on Charlotte 2, Atlanta 0. He says Atlanta in Game 2 was a similar variation to Atlanta in Game 1, which was looking like the clear better side in the first half to conceding early with an inability to defend in transition, changing the entire vibes of the game in the second half. I think the attacking four looked really solid, especially Almiron, but they didn't find a way to score before the break. Charlotte, whose first goal came from a misread on a long ball followed by a weird bounce off our defender, doesn't make too many mistakes, and Atlanta didn't take advantage of their early opportunities to change the game. Luis Abram has been a liability for this group and has not met his near $1 million price tag. Not walking away too worried about this result, Pedro Amador sounds like he will be available for selection home against the Red Bulls, which will be a big boost on both sides of the field. If the similar defensive issues show itself again, then I'll have a little more concern.
There you go. That is a wonderful way to start us off from Bryce. David, do you have anything that you want to add on Atlanta, and or do you want to sing the praises of Charlotte? I know you are a known Charlotte appreciator, especially after your trip to Charlotte.
I actually have no praises for either team. I don't. I'm sorry. Look, I get it. Like, love the atmosphere of Charlotte. I'll be back in a few weeks. Love it. Aside from the 2 mistakes in Atlanta's defense, the 2 long balls, tell me what else Charlotte offered. You can't recall.
You're gonna be waiting for a while.
Yeah. You can't recall. And I'm not like, neither team offer. If those mistakes don't happen, you got yourself a boring game. Literally, you have yourself a boring game. 2 teams that looked confused, 2 teams that looked like they were trying to find their identity, 2 teams that couldn't, well, Atlanta at least couldn't get 3 passes together. And luckily for the fans and the 36,000 that were there, or 26,000, whatever, luckily the ball in the second goal, the defender miscalculates and jumps over him, and then the other one the same thing. Like, yeah, like, I'm sorry, like, there was nothing that was offered from both sides that made you as a neutral say this is a great game. Like, yeah, like, I'm sorry. Yeah, look, I get it. You guys are excited. Your new DP or whatever scored his game, and then he's their arrival, or they're this, they're that. You got 10 million in this field, you got 20 million in the other field. At the end of the day, 2 mistakes did it, and that's it. But did I see anything from Charlotte that I'm like, yeah, they're going somewhere? No, I didn't. Did I see something from Atlanta where I'm like, yo, you know what? This attack is crazy. No, I didn't either. I didn't. And sorry, that's the truth. That's my truth, at least.
I think when I was watching this match, I just had a sense that not. I don't think Charlotte is going to win the East, but I would be shocked if the team that did not ultimately win the East, that their away record included a win in Charlotte. Because I think Charlotte, they continue to play their normal style, right? Like,
What is
if
their
you give
style?
them their style is not letting anybody have any fun with goals in Charlotte. Um, and if you can walk away from Charlotte with 3 points, you're probably one of maybe 2 or 3 teams that are doing that. Because historically, they've been a strong home side. LA Galaxy were the better home side last year. They didn't lose a single match at home, but I mean, to me, right? Like, Charlotte are a defensively organized, tenacious team. I am interested to see how Zaha works out because I don't know how they're going to take advantage of him. In the same way that LAFC, I have no idea how they take advantage of Giroud. I am curious how they're going to set up Zaha for success. Truthfully.
Yeah, Zaha, funnily enough, didn't look great in that first half. It's literally his first half in MLS, so like we can cut him some slack. But
Nope, no slack here.
they kept attacking down the right hand side at the beginning of the half, and I thought that was interesting. You have Wilfred Zaha attack down his side. He will get you assists. He will create danger, push teams back. Instead, they were attacking on the right and having no joy whatsoever. Down the left, though, they eventually started going down there towards the end of the first half, and they did a little better. They did a little better, but it was really the mistakes that gave them the win.
Hey, Saha's a ball hog, by the way. Bro, pass the freaking ball to your partner
Always
that's
has been.
next to you. Like, pass the damn ball. And he even has the balls to admit it. Oh, yeah, it wasn't a pass. Obviously, you idiot, it wasn't a pass. You were not going to pass that ball. And who God knows if that goal would have ever happened.
Gotta keep people guessing. Hey, similarly, I'm going to keep us guessing. Does anyone have any final thoughts, last words? Otherwise, I'm moving us on to our next match. All right, seeing none. I'm taking us to Chicago versus DC United. And hey, once again, another phenomenal correspondent corner from Timothy Chalamet. Oh, sorry, not Timothy Chalamet. Tim at Sing Electric. Sorry, wrong MLS super fan. However, Tim sends in his regards on the Chicago Fire, goes on to say, the Fire went into Saturday's match against DC United with 8 first-team players unavailable, including Brian Gutierrez, who was suspended midweek after his yellow from the match was upgraded to a red by the disciplinary committee. Before kickoff, they were down one more as Carlos Terán injured himself in warmups and gave opportunities to players, including Sam Williams, whose first ever game as a full professional came as an MLS start. Talking about the game, Fire went down a goal early thanks to a Christian Benteke shot from point-blank range, tied by halftime, and they went up in the 70th minute. Both them off corners by Philip Zinkernagel, and then played by Jack Elliott to Hugo Kuipers, doubling the number of dead piece goals the Fire had in all of 2024 in just one game. And when it looked like the Fire was going to see out their first win of the season, Sam Rogers, in his first MLS start, had a handball in the box, sending Benteke to the spot in the 90th minute. It was a miss, but temporary reprieve as an incredible bicycle kick from Jacob Mirel eluded Chris Brady in the last kick of the game, snatching a draw from the jaws of victory once again for the Fire. A tale as old as time. Next test, Dallas at the Brimstone Cup will be contested for the first time since 2022. So, a lot to take in there. Gavin, thoughts on Chicago Fire? Tim sums it up well, which is, of course, why Tim is an actual impressive reporter, and we're sitting here on a podcast.
Yeah, last week I'm going to start with DC because they didn't have the same challenges that Chicago had.
Baby. Undefeated.
Undefeated,
baby.
0-2-0, both games 2-2. Yes, yeah. With DC, I mean, David Pirani did better in this game. He got the assist for Benteke early on, but still, like I was gonna say, they have mostly their starting lineup out there. Maybe an injury here or there, but it looks like they're full fledged starting lineup for the most part. And Chicago, like Tim said, we're struggling with to get bodies in. And Chicago, they still looked like a little bit the better team. Now the goals come from corners at the end of the day, some terrible defending. Okay, if it happens once, fine, but you can't let it happen 2 times in the same game. And Hugo Kuipers could have had a third goal as well in this game. He had a really good chance that he didn't quite execute on. And so it's just like for DC, I'm a little disappointed that they go up early and they don't keep up the pressure. They kind of sit back. They let Chicago get the momentum. And then, anything can happen at that point, and it did. The ball goes in the back of the net 2 times off a corner. And then, the crazy thing happens. I mean, I'm sure David, you were jumping up and down, and I know the fans and the players were going crazy. I mean, that is an insane way to equalize with the last kick of the game, bicycle kick equalizer. One of the best goals, if not the best goal of the season already. For the rest of the season, that one's going to be hard to beat. So those are kind of my takes on the game. A little disappointed with how DC couldn't capitalize on an early lead.
Both undefeated teams going at it. No, I think you hit it spot on. DC, unfortunately, is 1 or 2 injuries away from being a really bad team. Because if this is what their whole startup line can do, then we're in big trouble. It's like I keep saying, this is the 3rd or 4th time I say identity. All the teams, or some of the teams, are trying to find their identity right now, and DC is one of them. Benteke, has doing his thing. He's always at the right spot. But DC, to Gavin's point, they fall back too much. It's almost like, if you guys ever seen those type of games, David versus Goliath, when that small team goes up 1-0, and all of a sudden they just park the bus trying to protect that lead. I don't know why DC United has that mentality. When it's MLS, you can go up against anyone, anything can happen. Right? Gavin said the craziest thing happened. I think we can just say the most MLS thing happened. Right? A last minute bicycle kick that tied it. But no, yeah, Gavin hit it right in the nail. DC United just needs to pressure a little more. Not be, I don't know if the word respectful is correct, but just be a little more aggressive. Right? What is the worst that can happen? They're not going to relegate you. so be a little more aggressive. Take those chances if you're DC United.
Very fair. David, I think that's a good point to end on for this match. I'm going to keep us moving because we have a million matches to talk about, seemingly. Well, 15, but it's a lot. I'm going to instead take us to one that I don't look forward to talking about this. It's Philadelphia 4, Cincinnati 1. A Ty Baribo hat trick. Gavin is probably over there being like, oh my gosh, were we wrong about Philadelphia? And I'm here to say...
Wait. Who had a bad game?
Who had a bad game? Oh, I can tell you who had a bad game.
You know who I want you to say. Who had a bad game?
David, I will not give you the satisfaction because there were too many FC Cincinnati players that had bad games to call out just one. And for the record, I don't think it's just limited to the players. I think Bradley Carnell is a known quantity in MLS, right? Been with New York Red Bulls, been with St. Louis City, now with Philadelphia. Has set up similar play styles in each of those places and has been very successful early on in basically all of those stints while players are still fresh, especially early in the season. And I think what's interesting to me is Cincinnati has played Bradley Carnell in St. Louis early in the season, and this game basically played out the exact same way that it did there too. Philadelphia pressed the heck out of Cincinnati. Cincinnati had no idea on how to play because they kept trying to go through the middle of the field, and Philadelphia just ate it up. They were like, thank you very much. We'll handle all the possession, and you get no attacking chances. It was wildly ineffective. I mean, poor preparation by the coaching staff, poor preparation by the players. You can say maybe they're looking at, Champions Cup for Tigres on Tuesday. No, you have to do better than this. I mean, this was a really poor showing by Cincinnati. Great showing by Philadelphia, for the record. I mean, holy moly. To Gavin's point, were we wrong about Philadelphia? I don't know if we were, because again, Bradley Carnell's a known quantity. I don't know how this side goes into August, September, October, November, late in the season, where Carnell's sides have historically struggled.
Well, last 2 games, man, they've been clinical. That's the word. Clinical.
Yeah.
Like, they destroyed Orlando. They destroyed Cincy. No one has been expecting this. Clinical, literally.
But we should have. We should have expected this. I mean, Carnell plays the exact same style every single time he's a head coach.
This, and like you mentioned, we have a whole bunch of games to get through, so I'll just say this. This helps the Union roster a lot. Helps them come together, forget about everything else that happened in the offseason, forget about whatever beef everybody has going on in the locker room, and pretty sure they're surprised as well as we are. But what a better way, right? If you and I and Gavin were discussing this, okay, yeah, they played Houston at first. Okay, well, after that, they played Montreal. No, they played Orlando. Then they played Cincy and outperformed them really well. And that's what's caught us more off guard than the score, the teams they have beaten so far. 1 away, 1 home. You're doing it. Great start for them.
Yeah. Well, my one caveat to my Carnell slander is Philadelphia has a ridiculously deep academy system. Like, if your players start to get burned out, they can keep pulling people up to run that system. So if you've integrated it top to bottom and people know the system, we could really see a Carnell side that stays fresh and healthy for the entirety of the year. And then I'd be saying, watch out.
Yeah, I just want to say, I know I said it last week, I've been really impressed with Jacques in midfield and Lukic as well. Both of them are allowing their press to happen because they're able to clean up in the midfield and dominate that space, allowing the 4 attackers to go and win the ball high up the pitch and feel the safety that if they get beat, they're not going to give up a goal. And I think that's a really important aspect of a press. So huge shout out to their midfield. Every time I watch them, I've been very impressed.
Hey, before I move us on, put both you guys on the spot real quick. Philadelphia Union, reevaluate. Are they a playoff team, and specifically, are they a home playoff team? Are you willing to make that adjustment?
Ask me in 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I'm asking you now.
No on home playoff team, but playoff team. I think I'm prepared to say that.
Are you prepared to concede that much, David?
No, I'm looking at the East. There's some solid teams. So
all right,
by week 5, week 6, we should see.
All right, we'll see. I appreciate David's commitment to this. I'm waffling. I'm thinking they're looking like a playoff team, but this could be confirmation and recency bias. So David might be the most rational out of all of us to say I want to wait and see, but that's playing against the rules. Anyways, moving us on, Orlando, Toronto. Orlando with a nice, comfortable 4-2 win over Toronto. Our resident Orlandoan is down here reporting live from the jubilation, the celebratory atmosphere. Gavin, how is it down there? Are people living, laughing, and loving?
Yeah, this was a really just enjoyable game. Like it was just one of those like fun games. I think what it was is honestly it was a really boring first 30 minutes. Neither team really was doing much. There wasn't big chances on either side. Toronto was really slowing things down. It felt like, if you can think back to the Eastern Conference Final, New York Red Bulls and Orlando City, and New York Red Bulls just slowed the game down and really made it a boring game to watch. Toronto were trying to do that. It felt like they watched that game and said, "That's how we're going to play Orlando City next season, no matter what." And then we get a free kick, and Cesar Araujo just steps up and blasts it perfectly into the top corner. That's the first goal of the game. And the roof came off the place. It was just like out of nothing, really. We don't score many free kicks like that at all. It's been years, I think, since we scored a free kick. And so it was a big moment. And then um, Alex Freeman, he's a right back. He's been in our academy. He's been in our OCB team, and there were some exciting videos 3-4 years ago of him at a really young age, and we're like, oh, this guy could be really good. And then he gets 2 minutes in like the 2021 or 2022 season. I can't remember which one. And it's like, okay, he's seen the game. Okay, next season's gonna be the season. No, it wasn't the season. Next season's going to be the season. No, it wasn't the season. Dagerdon Thorhalson makes the spot his own. Well, he comes off the bench against Philadelphia and plays fantastic. And all the talk of the town was, that's Alex Freeman's spot. And lo and behold, Oscar Pareja gave it to him, and he goes and scores a goal 2 minutes, a minute and a half after we make it 1-0 to make it 2-0. He gets in behind, and a really professional touch, a really professional finish. And I mean, it was just electric after that. And Freeman is really the face of this win, I think. He won man of the match. He played great. And we had a couple of other good goals. We got an assist from Luis Muriel off the bench, but Alex Freeman is everything that everybody's talking about. Toronto weren't great. Just quickly hitting on Toronto, I think it's more of a system thing for them. I think their players are all right, but it's not like individual errors that's happening. I mean, there was one individual error on Ojeda's goal, but for the most part, I think it's a system thing that allowed us to generate chances after going 1-0 up, because they were too high too early. There was not enough defensive cover, and a couple of those goals were just a little too simple. So, yeah, a really fun one.
Hey, on the topic of system, Gavin, do you think Toronto might be starting to show signs where they've had too many coaches in too short of a time? Where now you're starting to really lack identity, and now players really is like, you're trying to balance so many different systems and instructions and cultures, and I'm sure there's probably some negative energy in the locker room at this point. Like, I'm curious if you think that's maybe what's contributing to it, seeing as how you're calling out system.
Yeah, too many coaches and not a long time. Too much player turnover and not a long time. There really aren't those guys that have been there for even like 3 years. It feels like most of them have come in or gone, come in and gone, come in and gone. And so, yeah, it's system, but also it's the players on the field who know what the system is and what the coach wants and what works for that team specifically. Every club has their little thing that works, and I mean, it's a Sorio, and that's it. And so I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Listen, my boy Sean Johnson was about to cry, and I wanted to cry with him. I just felt so bad for him watching him around the third goal. He literally looked like he was about to cry, and I was like, you know what, bro? Let me ask NYCFC if they want you back. I just felt bad for him.
Well, I don't think NYCFC will take him back if Coach Joe's stance on Sean Johnson is any indication of the fan base and where their heads are at on that. But guys, I'm going to keep us moving. We are instead going to take a little bit of a time zone shift. We're going to talk about RSL versus Seattle. It's a 2-0 win. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe either the leading goal scorer for Seattle in the regular season or joint leading goal scorer for them in the regular season is a center back with 2 own goals.
It was some mistakes back there for for Sounders that the first goal was a mistake, obviously. The second goal, the defense is, I don't know. The MLS defense has been trash. I mean, they're usually trash, but the last 2 weeks has just been horrible. Playing from the back, mistakes, players tripping over each other, the ball not 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 calculating the bounce on the ball. Like it's been bad for MLS defending in the last 2 weeks. But it was a redemption game for RSL, for getting cooked by a Central American team and embarrassing the whole league.
Gavin is fact checking me on this and pointing out that it was Yamar in week 1 and Nuhu in week 2. So, correction on that. However, that now tells me that half of Seattle's goals in the season are coming from defensive players and not in a good way.
In a very, very, very bad way. I mean, when you are in CONCACAF Champions Cup, when you're playing in MLS, you can't be gifting goals like this. What Seattle wanted to do was have this be 0-0 for as long as possible, get it to the second half, last 30 minutes go and get a sloppy goal, 1-0, get out of there with their backups and go and play in CONCACAF Champions Cup. Instead, they gift RSL a goal, and now they have to go chase. They're not fully up for it. They don't want to get injured before their big CONCACAF Champions Cup game. And now they lose 2-0, and it's a disappointing start to the season for Seattle.
Yeah, I called out Noonan earlier for bad tactics, and I'm gonna call it Schmetzer on this as well. I think Schmetzer got his lineups and his substitution patterns pretty wrong in this one. If you're giving up a goal that early against RSL, you have to make changes in how you want to play, and yet Seattle seemed to lack urgency. Like, we'll just play our style, we'll score a goal. But who did they have on the field? Where were their threats coming from? And then you make the substitution at the half to bring some people in. It's like if you're committing to trying to chase the game, either commit up front because you did it in a half measure, it didn't yield you any results, and then you had to bring in more people later on. It's like if you were going to run guys out anyways, just bring them on at the half. Give yourself a good 45 minutes to try and get back into this game. But the substitutions were awkward. They were mistimed. There was no adjustment to the way that RSL was able to play once they got up a goal. I know Schmetzer historically focuses on Champions Cup, yes. But man, this is... I thought this was a bad game from Schmetzer, just in the entirety of how it was managed. Good on RSL for seeing it out, though. I mean, previous years, RSL, and last year specifically, RSL probably gives up 2 goals at the death, and it ends up being a 2-2 draw. But this time they saw it out.
So we talked about the Herediano game. We said we were going to talk about RSL later. Is this an indicator of good things to come?
Nah.
No. Hey, follow-up question. Pedro de la Vega. What do you guys think about Pedro de la Vega? This is my last, my last soapbox thing here. I haven't been fully convinced.
The Sounders kid?
Yeah.
I really hope he's not a P.T. Martinez or Ezequiel Barco kind of story where he couldn't find his footing in the league. The Sounders did pay a lot of money for him. And the Sounders are not known for wasting their DP spot. Think back a little bit. When was the last time they didn't choose a good DP? It's been a while. Lodeiro did fantastic for them. Raul Ruiz, tremendous. I'm not sure if João Paulo's DP, but he's been good for them as well. Their first DP ever. Oh my God, what's this kid's name? He broke the record for them in goal scoring. I forgot his name.
Ruiz?
What was it?
Ruiz?
No, it was another one before him when they first came into
Montero.
the league. Montero, yes.
Freddie Montero.
He did great for them. Dempsey was great for them. So they're known for choosing the right DPs and fitting them into the system. But he's struggled. Let's be honest, he struggled. We all want him to succeed. I always want DPs, especially young DPs, to succeed in the league because it can bring more young players from South America to the league. But he struggled a lot. I think Smetzer needs to find a way to get him more involved and get him to create more plays for the Sounders.
Gavin, any final thoughts on that? Otherwise, we have a correspondent corner that I think summarizes our feelings on this match fairly well from the Seattle perspective.
Nothing more for me.
All right. So AJ over on our Discord has a wonderful message that made me smile, made me laugh with tears of joy and sadness, and a phenomenal stat in here. So AJ says the Sounders did the thing where they go to Salt Lake and no game occurs, I'm pretty sure. Or at least it would probably have been better if no game occurred based on them not scoring an MLS goal there since before we got stuck at home in 2020. That said, Nuhu did score a header, so hey, take the W when you can, I guess. Silver linings and all that, and on to Cruz Azul.
I do
And
want to say,
guys,
I'm sorry.
and David, incredible stat. Just side note, the fact that they have not scored a goal there since before 2020.
I do want to say the Sounders in the first half didn't play a lot of their starters. And this is where Russell probably says, Smetzer could have done more. But from what I understood, Arriola, Ferreira, Morris, if I'm not mistaken, a whole bunch of players, some bunch of the starters were at the bench in the first half. But either way, hopefully Cruz Azul, they can bring their A game because, we want the whole league to succeed in CONCACAF.
I think the thing with that statement, while it is correct, Seattle's bench players are good enough to be starters for most other teams in this league, and that is the reason that they've built this squad this way, so they can compete on multiple fronts while still rotating. And I'd be a little worried if we're blaming rotation of starting level players for them not winning this game.
All right. Well, guys, we could go on and on about this, but I'm not going to let us. We're going to move on to New York Red Bulls versus Nashville. A 2-0 win for the New York Red Bulls. It's interesting because Nashville, while nominally known for being a good defensive side, seemed to really let New York Red Bulls have a lot of comfort in how they attacked them. So I'm curious to get some thoughts on that. I'm going to start off with Gavin.
Of course, it's always Gavin first.
Always Gavin first. Always.
Yeah, Red Bulls, I thought their attack looked pretty good in this game. They looked like they were kind of swarming for that first goal. They got the ball into Choupo-Moting, who had a good touch. He had a good shot. Ball deflects kindly to Sofo, who scores his first goal in MLS. And then, they keep up the pressure, and eventually they get that second with the golazo from Emil Forsberg. If you haven't seen the goal, go watch it. It is beautiful. Just pings it into the top right corner. And then, it's 2-0. And, Nashville did in the second half turn up the heat, turn up the pressure, last 30 minutes or so of the game. But overall, I think it was already 2-0, and New York Red Bulls just wanted to see the game out. And so Nashville didn't really create like a gilt edge chance that they really should have scored. It was a tap in, but they did ramp up the pressure. But I think that's just because of game state. So I thought New York Red Bulls looked good, and I thought this was a promising game for them.
I'm starting to... Nashville, I had them in the playoffs. I know what I said about them. But I'm starting to get concerned on their ownership. I really don't want them to fall into that group of ownership where they just don't care anymore and stop investing in their team. If you remember when they came into the league, it was a big buzz, right? They bought Mukhtar, they got this player, they got that player, they did great. Ownership promised to spend a lot, and all of a sudden they gone quiet. That's my only concern from them. Red Bulls, it doesn't surprise me. We've known Red Bulls style for years. As a DC United fan, I know the rivalry we have with them. They never change. They always play the same style. They always beat the teams they have to beat. But yeah, Nashville is just, man, was I wrong. That's all I got to say.
I will say they did buy Kassem for a couple millions this offseason. He's not a DP by any stretch of the imagination, but he's I'd have to go look at the roster thing, but I'm pretty sure he'd be a TAM player. Or he's probably under 22. He's one of those.
Gary Smith is still with them, right?
No, BJ
Oh,
Callahan.
BJ
BJ
Callahan.
Callahan, yeah, Callahan. Okay. Here's my question: the style of play for Nashville with Mukhtar, is it concerning how much Mukhtar's um, value is dropping because of how Nashville has played last season and so far this season?
I don't know if it's a concern.
Not concerning,
I
but
think
like the style, like we want Mukhtar to do good. When he took over the league, he took over. Everybody was talking about him. He's a great player, but we don't need that for the league. We want Mukhtar to do great. Uh, I mean, if you're him, you got to start thinking your ways, man. Way way out.
I don't know. I don't know about way out. I think he's pretty settled in Nashville, but man, they're gonna have to give him something if they want to keep him happy. Because I mean, it doesn't feel like whatever project they maybe told him, hey, we're gonna make it work. We're gonna do this and this and this. We're gonna bring in talent around you, and it's not happening. And guys, I don't want to panic for Nashville, but just hear me out on this. They played New England first, and that was a relatively weaker side. And now, like they've played New York Red Bulls. They've got a few other maybe winnable matches coming up. They've got Portland. They're home against Portland, and then they're home against Montreal. They're away to Philadelphia between that. That's going to be a meat grinder of a match. But like, then they go into a little bit of a tougher stretch. And if you don't start to pick up the points and, do that in like next 2 or 3 matches, where are you going to start picking them up? Because then they've got Cincinnati, they've got Charlotte, they have Salt Lake, and Salt Lake is not super amazing, and they've got Seattle and Chicago and Atlanta and Charlotte again, and I mean, it could be. I don't know if I see anywhere on this schedule where I look at them and be like, oh, they could get a run of games going where they could get like 2, 3, 4 wins in a row.
They need one at least. They need a confidence booster.
Yeah, they whatever game it's going to have to be one of those scrappy games where, they get a through ball into like Schaffelberg or something or Boyd, and they get a 1-0 result out of it. They defend well to really help them start their season essentially, because it feels like they're still in preseason with the way they've been playing.
Yeah. Well,
people did say they had a
guys,
promising first game of the season, but this one definitely not so much. Sorry, Russell.
no, it's okay, Gavin. I'm glad that you're wrapping it up on them because I'm ready to wrap it up on Nashville as well. And I instead want to take us to another place. Unfortunately, similar spirit of promising first game only to not look very promising at all. We had Minnesota versus CF Montreal. It's a 1-0 win for Minnesota. Montreal looked decent in week 1, and then they looked more like the Montreal that I think we expected to see in week 2. And I'll counterbalance that by saying this is one of those matches where like when I look at them and I look at like betting lines, I was like, Montreal, I think they're gonna get blown out by Minnesota, who had a lot of good looks, just couldn't find a way to finish. So I think they're gonna finish those chances against Montreal, and I was like, I think they'll go over 2.5 goals scored. Minnesota had a lot of great looks. They still continue to fail to capitalize on those looks though, and I question, like, I had Minnesota, somewhat lower, and it wasn't necessarily for lack of scoring that I had them lower at the end of the season, but now I'm starting to think maybe I'm going to get that one right, but for the wrong reasons, because if you're getting this much volume in the way of chances, and you just fail to capitalize time after time after time, it doesn't matter who you have on that team. Like, you can't win every game 1-0. You can't.
I'm more concerned on Montreal. 66% of the ball went to them. 81% pass accuracy. 3 shots, not on target. That's concerning.
Concerning, but not surprising. Here's my question.
No one. If you're gonna ask who to wait, who can I call from that roster? No one. I cannot recall.
Yeah,
name.
like, and that's the thing. You have a squad of really good MLS guys, but when we saw the rosters come out for the Compliance Day rosters, I don't think Montreal had a single designated player on that roster.
But this goes back 2 years ago when they let Winfrey Nancy go. They let go 2 or 3 of their when they had the great run, they let them go. Joseph, you can talk anything you want about Joseph, but he had 13 goals last season. They let him go. And like, I just don't know. They don't have an academy that we know that is good. They're not investing, like you just said. They don't have many DP. So, what is it from Montreal? Is it just, hey, we're in the league now, we're just gonna be here around? Yes, if your team has 66% of the ball, 81% pass accuracy, great numbers, and then all of a sudden 3 shots but none were on target. How do you get 3 shots out of 66% and none of those shots are on target? The other team got 33% of the ball and they had 16 shots. It's like 7 on target. That's freaking concerning if you're Montreal. Gotta find a way. Your team goes 0-3 if they lose the next match. That's where the confidence just goes all the way down.
Yeah, with Montreal, I think they've been a little unlucky with injuries. They are missing Vrioni, the DP striker they brought in from New England, who didn't light up the league in New England, but they're trying to give him a second chance. They're missing George Campbell, who had a great end of last season and first game of this season at center back. They're missing a promising player in Jalen Neal, and they're missing their midfield engine room in Samuel Piet. So I think they're missing some key pieces. So there is that caveat there. But they looked rough in this game. Like you spoke to, David, only 3 shots. I think that comes down to Minnesota's system, though. I think Minnesota looked good defensively, and that seems to be what they are prioritizing. I want to see a bit of a system change, to be honest. Like it's worked for them; they've gotten their first win, and but I don't think they need 5 at the back. I don't like sticking Huangwane at right wing back. I would really prefer like honestly like a 4-2-2-2 similar to what Philadelphia are doing and get Huangwane, Tani Oluwaseyi, and Yaboa all up next to each other. Tani and Huangwane on that right side, and Yaboa floating up there, and then just Pereira on the other side. See what he can do. He might do well in some chaos, and then just go after teams. I think they have an attack that they can get in behind because they have that speed, and they have Yaboa who can be a chaos agent up there and score some goals. But right now, it just feels like they're leaning too much into this defensive mindset, and it's not giving them the clear cut opportunities. And so they only have a couple opportunities a game, and they don't have that clinicality to finish them every time.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just as a last item on that is they lack joy right now. Like when I was watching, I was like, this is not like I don't feel like Minnesota is in any danger of losing, but I wish Montreal would score just to have something happen.
If a new MLS viewer watches that game, would they have taken away, wow, I want to watch this league?
Well, I mean, they probably would have been like, wow, this league needs better attackers because
Better everything.
yeah,
Watching those two teams right now.
Minnesota takes what, 16, 17 shots? Like come on, you have to have better shot selection. Or to Gavin's point, you need to get other players up there so you have outlets so that you can give yourself better scoring opportunities. Like you got to do something. Cuz what it is right now is not great. All right, well, I just saw what match we're talking about next and we're continuing the not great train. As we talk about New England Revolution versus Columbus Crew, a 0-1 loss for the Revolution. The Crew win on the road. Oh my goodness. where to even begin
I was
on
depressed
this
watching that game. I was
on this game. I mean,
so depressed watching that game. Well,
like,
part of what I saw.
yeah, I think we were all relatively high on New England going into the season, and I am ready to put them in 15th place and move on for the rest of the season and start talking about like Toronto in 14th because I mean, you've given Caleb Porter his roster. You have turned over all these players. And already, now we're seeing news. Caleb Porter's getting into arguments with other coaches in the organization in front of players. They're losing against depleted sides who they should be beating, and they're at home. And it's just like you have all the ingredients for like the San Jose meltdown that we had last year. You have all of that in week 2 for the Revolution. And I don't know, like if you get 2 more losses on the bounce, like good luck.
Can we start a fund to build a 10,000 capacity stadium for New England? Because it just looks depressing seeing the fans scatter like that. It's like depressing, dude. 5 over here, 3 over there, 2 over there, 5 over there. Oh, there's not 5. It was just some shadow. Never mind. 3 over there. Like it's just depressing seeing that. But Caleb Porter can do better with that squad. It's just
Danny,
they have good talent, man. They have good talent. I've been a Gio fan well, not all my life, all his MLS,
all
oh
all of his life.
all his MLS tenure here. Now you got Campana, who's a good striker, right? Like they could do so much better with that squad, but it was just a depressing game. The crew too. The crew need a striker, man. they they're gonna. Yeah, I'm just never mind. I'm not gonna say anything else. They need a striker. I'll sit my mouth for this one.
That's okay. Gavin can channel what you're saying because I think Gavin's probably on the same wavelength as both of us.
Yeah, we don't need to spend too much time on this game. It was a nothing
Gavin doesn't
game.
want to get in trouble either.
Combined XG was under like 0.6, 0.7, something like that. Like it was a terrible game overall. I think it's just impressive what Columbus have done to, have a CONCACAF Champions Cup game coming up and do what I said Seattle should have done, which is keep it tight, keep it close, just keep it 0-0 and go and get the 1-0 smash and grab win. And that's what Columbus did. And New England was the perfect opponent to do it against because they are not great right now. They are hard to watch. They are a lot like they had almost a whole roster revamp. So it's kind of understandable that they haven't found the perfect solution right away. And it's up to Caleb Porter to tinker and change and say, okay, this player's actually good here. This player's actually good in this scenario. Oh, I have a really exciting player in Noel Buck that I need to be using. But instead, right now, it's a nightmare start to the season for New England. We'll see if that changes anytime soon.
Spoiler, it will not be. Anyways, let's move on. We're going to talk about, oh my gosh, we've got a theme. We're going to talk about another nightmare start to a season for Sporting Kansas City versus San Jose. San Jose getting a 2-1 win on the road. Sporting Kansas City are now 0-4 to start the season across all competitions. They lost their, the season opener. They lost their home opener. They lost both legs of Champions Cup against Inter Miami. And on top of that, San Jose still get the win after going down a man.
The day I find dirt on my boss, like Peter Vermees has dirt on his bosses, oh my God, my job will be secure for the rest of my life. You know that? That that will be the day I'll understand them.
Yeah, like I don't know where to even begin on it, and I just
Who was it that said they had what's this striker's name from LA Galaxy that went over? Uh
Jovic.
Julic.
Jovic,
I asked the question, under 12 goals, over 12 goals. I think it was half and half of us that agreed under 10, 12, over 12. At this rate, man, he's gonna be up around 5.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? I have a great solution here for talking about Sporting Kansas City. I'm just going to let someone else do it. We have a correspondent corner from SKC Spins from Travis, also on our Discord. Travis goes to say it's not great. Accurate start. San Jose started their rebuild at the same time as us and were able to completely shut down our attack despite being down a man. Pulskamp looked like a backup goalkeeper, and our attack was slow and impotent. A coaching change is unlikely, but I think it's time. Only bright spots was breaking the PK drought and Shapi Suleimanov.
There was a lot of hype for SKC behind Manu Garcia and Suleimanov, and I just didn't see it from the second they were
Was there
announced.
a lot of hype?
I think SKC fans were really excited. They really thought that these two signings were going to turn them around, and they were really excited to, I think, just see some new faces other than Johnny Russell and Shaloi up top, to be honest. But instead, it's just been more of the same, and I don't know. It's head scratching. San Jose deserves a lot of credit. They had one of their players do the stupidest thing imaginable, which is slide tackle from behind while on a yellow card. Slide tackle from behind twice, really, in the game to go down to 10 men. So huge credit to them for shutting out SKC. But SKC didn't offer nothing. Like, if you watch the highlight package of this game, because I went back and watched it. Low light package is after the red card. There is nothing. There is no big chances for SKC. There's no even like long shots. Like, it's just like there was nothing even somewhat convincing enough to have the editor put in. They just showed the final whistle, and like, if that doesn't tell you that SKC didn't do enough after being up a man for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, then I don't know what will.
So far, it's worked out really well for Bruce Arenas with 2 strikers up top. So it worked out really well. So, hey, Bruce is Bruce.
Bruce is Bruce. He knows how to get results in this league. And you know what? I feel really good about putting San Jose up there in our preseason predictions. So we'll continue to see how that pans out for all of us. But we are instead going to talk about an actual fun match. It's a draw, yet it's the fun kind of draw. It's Colorado versus Dallas. It's 3-3. Holy moly.
Yeah, that high school stadium for the Colorado Rapids went crazy. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, look, I've not been in love with what I've seen from Colorado early in the season, between Champions Cup and as well, like, season opener. Okay, but if you're gonna play exciting and keep me on the edge of my seat in every single one of these matches, which is seemingly what they're gonna do, I'll live with it.
However, they did let a team come back on them.
There you go. It keeps, look, think about it this way. It means you can never tune out of the match, David. You always have to stay skeptical and vigilant, being like, how are they going to let him in this time?
Isn't there a saying that 2-0 is the most deceiving score in the sport?
Most dangerous scoreline, yeah.
Lucho scored.
Iconic Lucho goal.
Lucho's back. Think Churrasco's point, it was really fun watching it. There was a one golazo in there. Yeah, Chris Armas has a good squad. Dallas has a good squad, but Chris Armas, to what he did last year, I think he has a lot more to do, and we'll see if he can get it done. He has good players on his roster. And then you had Dallas that really needed this kind of sensation, right? Almost like a win, but it wasn't. I mean, they did the comeback. They came back. I think it was down 2-0. They needed this. Lucho needed this, and it'll be fun to see what Dallas can do going forward.
I'm mildly optimistic about Dallas. Like, signing Lucho is, and you know, there's good and bad things about Lucho, but one of the good things about Lucho is he is the type of player that when the momentum is against you, he can just go do something ridiculous and shift the whole like momentum and mentality of the match for your team. Now he doesn't do that every game, and sometimes that gets balanced by him maybe getting really upset, trying to play hero ball, being a little too like focused on make everything happen through me. So pros and cons with Lucho, but again, these matches where you're trailing are the types of matches where I swear Acosta thrives in. Like he needs the he needs like he almost needs like the challenge. He needs the obstacle to overcome.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and it helps having Pitar Musa up top with you playing in those through balls. Musa has been fantastic this season. I Colorado, like, two of their goals come from deflected crosses in this game. All of Dallas's goals are replicatable goals. They are goals that they could score again in this league in this season. Keegan Rosenberry's not going to score that goal again this season. It's just a mishit cross to the back corner, perfect. Navarro might. I mean, you try your luck, ball bounces off, gets a deflection, and it falls to the head of your striker. Yeah, well done, I guess. But I mean, Dallas, they were playing some great soccer in this game. They get the 3 goals. Maybe should have had a 4th goal. A little bit of controversy on the offsides flag there. If we had the lines, maybe that's a goal. That's a different discussion for a different day. But either way, this was a fun match to watch. Definitely encourage you to go check out the highlights. And Dallas, I'm pretty pleased with their start to the season. I think they've been doing pretty well.
Agree. And you know what? Hey, let's just end this. We have a very short and sweet correspondent corner from Melanie. She's on the Discord at Toros95. Straight to the point. Musa and Lucho. Chef's kiss. Mwah. That's it. That's the correspondent corner. You don't need any more than that. So, all right. Well, guys, we're getting down to our last 5 matches here, and we have some good ones coming up. Well, coming up. Hey, let's talk LAFC versus NYCFC. We have got a correspondent corner from Coach Joe. Sent something in at BTS Pod on X. Gavin, do you have that one pulled up by chance?
I do. He says, this is for NYCFC. He says, a rather impotent performance out west against a underwhelming LAFC side. Denny Bouanga was lively and dangerous throughout. Taven Gray goes down with yet another injury a few minutes into the match, which is a cause for worry. Munsef Bakrar gets a start at winger and looks just as ineffective as he does at striker. Alonso Martinez has a bad game, and what do you know, NYCFC doesn't score. It won't be the last time I write that in 2025. Let's see if we can get a result at home as our annual season opening road trip produces 1 draw and 1 loss.
I'm going to do something crazy here. I'm going to start it off with David. David, we're not starting with Gavin. We're starting with you.
You started with him since you asked him to read the correspondent.
No. We started with Coach Joe. That was Gavin channeling Coach Joe.
Oh yeah, I definitely heard Coach Joe's voice.
Yeah, please hear that in Coach Joe's
I heard
voice.
that thick New York accent Gavin has.
Coach Joe's technically in New Jersey, so.
Wow, Coach Joe, he just called you a Red Bull fan, but okay. Let's go back really quick. Tati left. They've had a hard time scoring goals. They have a hard time finding who can score them the goals. And it doesn't look like it's going to improve at all this season so far. It's only 2 games in, but it doesn't look like it's going to improve at all. They do create chances. They do hold the ball. LAFC didn't offer much either, to Coach Joe's point. But we know what they're missing. They're missing a striker. They're missing that killer in the box. And Tati gave them that. Tati's in Napoli now, Lazio now. I think it's Lazio. Now he's doing good. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. That they need to find a decent striker. It can be a U22 player. It
should be a U22 player.
They literally, but they just need to go out and look for somebody. And City Football, man, come on, you got the money. You got the money, City Football. Man City owning the New York City FC, and then the Yankees owning them. You got the money. Mucho dinero, amigo. Go find yourself a player.
The insane thing is the most iconic City player in Kevin De Bruyne is rumored to be going to San Diego in summer. Not even NYC. And it's just like, what are we doing? What's the point? It's not great, is it, guys? Does anyone look? Does anyone have any nice words for LAFC? Can we get away from NYCFC?
LAFC's defense is really, really good. They're so good, they're also the ones scoring the goal in this game. Hollins head with the winner. No, they're definitely a team that seems to be their identity is defending, which is weird to say because for so long they were an attacking identity team. But times change. You lose 5-0, 4-0, 6-0, whatever it was to Columbus Crew, and you change to a defensive identity. And there you go. So that's where they're at the moment, and they're struggling to look any sort of good on offense, which is a cause for concern. We wait to see Under come in and see if he can do anything.
Giroud for LAFC is going to have a worse season than Steven Gerrard did with the Galaxy.
That's a hot take, but
he's on his way. Let's be honest, he's on his way. He hasn't. Last year, I get it. You could say he was new to the league. He had to adapt, whatever. But so far, the minutes he had here, I think he scored one already, if I'm not mistaken. But he was like a little tap in, whatever. But so far, man, he's still having this. They still can't find him at all.
Yeah, and I've said this on other episodes, and I will continue to stand on this hill, and that is that Olivier Giroud just where he thrives and succeeds and what he brings is not a style of play that LAFC play currently, nor are they equipped to play. So I appreciate them bringing someone like Giroud in. It's fun to watch, especially as an Arsenal fan. But I just
bring me Griezmann, man. Bring me Griezmann. Also, Vela, he's still getting paid. Like, I don't know, not some good moves lately by LAFC and spending their money.
Well, look, here's a good move. We're going to talk about Portland versus Austin. How about that? No one says anything at all about it. All right, fair enough. Hey, listen, I think it's important to note David DaCosta gets the goal right. It's kind of a weird goal in that I don't think it's super well defended, but gets the goal. Good start for DaCosta. Portland needed the win. Guys, when I have concerns about, and I feel bad because Portland gets the win, but Austin, this was a concerning match for me on the Austin side. And I think Cincinnati fans who are in tune with their concerns about Vasquez, I think will be not in an I told you so mood, but they will be looking at that and saying,
yeah,
interesting.
I agree with you. That was gonna be my take. Vasquez is. I see why Monterrey let him go, and I see why Monterrey didn't think twice about letting him go. And if he ever, especially with this new coach that U.S. men's national team has, if he ever wants to go back or be consider at least for the training camp, he needs to find a way to score and just show something. But yeah, nothing much coming from him. Portland, they needed this. They needed this win. After some horrible games for them, they needed this. I keep going back to the confidence booster. Teams need this. Austin is supposed to be one of the
they
hot
were supposed
teams.
To be good.
One of the hot teams with the roster they have. And yeah, it's just I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of question marks around some of these teams that we thought were going to be really good.
What do you think, Gavin? You were you were confident about some players
He's a Neville
on
fan.
Austin. Yeah, the Gavin is a well-known Gary Neville fan. That part's true. But
course.
let's talk Austin instead.
Yeah, I was confident about Uzuni, to be specific, and he didn't play the first game. He came off the bench in this game. So jury's out on him, and I didn't get a chance to watch this game in full, and he didn't show up on the highlights, so I'm going to assume he didn't do great. From what I do know, what I read about this game, what I saw from the highlights, it nothing looked good on Austin's side, considering the highlight for them was like a free kick from Vasquez, which was a well taken free kick. But yeah, if that's what the highlight is, then I can only assume the rest of the game was struggling to create combinations to score goals. And given the fact that it was a big fat 0 on the board and just an overall poor performance is what all the feedback was that I read from the fans in any articles, I'm just going to assume that that's all correct.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is going to sound weird, but guys, I want to move us on to talk about a match that I'm really interested in, even though it's a 0-0. And that is San Diego versus St. Louis. Earlier, look, when we started the season, I think we said if a match ends 0-0, means there was no goals, nothing interesting, they don't get to be talked about. This was the most riveting 0-0 that I have seen in a long time. And I don't have stats pulled up, but like San Diego surely had to have been on like 10 corners and probably like 20 shots against St. Louis. And it just, again, unbelievable level of dominance in possession that somehow, some way turns into 0 goals. And like it almost seems more improbable to have not scored from the opportunities that they had. But it was fun. Like the passing has been exciting. There is clear identity. Like I look at San Diego and I think to myself, they're going to get wins in this league and they're going to be watchable for the entire year. My just where I'll pump the brakes is like I still want to see like what are they going to do to finish.
To your point, I never, and this is my personal feeling, I never ever want a first season team, inaugural team, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, to ever get a 0-0 score on their first ever home game. Because you have new fans coming, you have new fans joining, people that are finding out the buzz around the city, people who have never watched soccer join, another sudden again 0-0. You know how people tend to think, right? To your point, 15 shots, 1 on target, 1. I found the game to be a little disappointing just because I know it's 2 games in, but I really need to see more from Chucky Lozano.
Well, he went off injured in this.
He went off injured, but what he's played so far hasn't been impressive.
But he was impressive in the first half of the first match.
More from him. I get it. They're a new team, about over 700 passes, which is freaking great. For a team in the league to have over 500 at least. We know we're not that league for that. And then St. Louis guys, 2 shots, 30% of the ball. St. Louis away from home. Duh. St. Louis away is not so attractive to watch.
They weren't super attractive to watch at home either. And hey, I'm going to pull in our correspondent corner from Tyler. He's on the Discord at STL Footy. Tyler says, St. Louis seems to not want to score. On the one hand, the emotion of a San Diego side playing in their first ever home match was clearly on the minds of the players who were content playing back and waiting for chances to open up. On the other hand, chances never opened up with only 28% possession. Talking St. Louis side, not San Diego on that percentage. 2 clean sheets in a row is fun. getting clean sheeted 2 weeks in a row is not. While St. Louis's results so far are in line with what I expected from our first 5, I didn't expect the attack to be this unproductive. That was just a bad performance, and St. Louis is lucky to have walked away with a point. And I agree with that last statement. Like, again, all that's missing is where the production comes from, because if San Diego can figure out that part, the chances are there for the taking. The shots are there for the taking. They can be a really good side.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway for a lot of people has to be San Diego and how they dominated this game. It's really just the attacking half of the pitch now that they have to shore up. I thought Dreyer had a couple of really good opportunities to create danger, and he wasted them. And with Lozano out now on the left, seeing that Emma Boateng come in, he's not the most dangerous player. He might score you 1 or 2 goals a season with a random cross that he's in the right spot for. But for the most part, he's not going to create too much danger. He's just a role player. So I think that's going to be a big miss for San Diego for the next few weeks. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do and if they can go and score some more goals. All eyes on Dreyer and Ingvartsen. As for St. Louis, it's hard to disagree with anything that you guys said. They were bad in this game offensively. Defensively good, offensively bad.
Hey, random thought. Does Dreyer kind of look like an older, non-tattooed Diego Luna?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad it's not just me who was thinking that.
It was you who was thinking it. I had never had that thought, but I agree with it.
All right, well, as long as Gavin's in my corner, we can do anything. Including moving on to talk about my former love. Friendship ended with Vancouver since they fired Sartini. Now San Diego's my new best friend. But we're talking instead Vancouver versus LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy taken a second L in a row. The championship team 0-2 on the trot. Vancouver wins over LA Galaxy at home 2-1. Whew. So Jaden Nelson, big story for Vancouver. I still maintain big story. Gavin, though, would have you believe that Pedro Vite is the big story. And Gavin, I would like some sort of context here, because for me it's still Jaden Nelson, who I think has looked really good and just like a solid piece for Vancouver.
Oh, taking nothing away from Jaden Nelson, he had an absolutely fantastic first game of the season. But throughout all 4 games, Pedro Vite has been fantastic for Vancouver. He came off the bench against Deportivo Saprissa in their first leg, and he played really well. Even though the team ended up losing, I thought Vite played really well. So he wins his starting spot through that game because he didn't start that game. And maybe he was just being rested, I don't know. But he comes in at the start against Portland, scores an amazing goal. I think the second goal of the game. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Against Portland, second goal. Beautiful goal from Vite. In this game, he gets the game-winning assist after an overall great game played. And it is a perfect cross to the back post for Brian White to flick into the bottom left-hand corner to get the win against LA Galaxy. I think Vite is a huge story for Vancouver right now, and I just wanted to give him his flowers.
What kind of flowers are you giving, just for the record? Because it's March. Like, I don't know
wild,
what's in season.
Some wildflowers, some pretty little wildflowers, because he creates that chaos.
So you're saying you're not even gonna spring for greenhouse grown flowers. You can just go get whatever you can find on the roadside.
I mean, I could get him some greenhouse grown. I could get him some flour, all right.
Well, Gavin's gonna show up and it's gonna be it's like the baking flour. And he's gonna be like, "Here you go. This is giving you your flour."
Yeah. Baked flour. Makes you baked. No, yeah, Pedro Vite, great start to the season.
David is threatening us on camera. So, David, I see you would like to get in on the action here.
This right here was LA Galaxy last year. Sharp. Very sharp.
You can imagine what David's holding right now,
Yeah.
just for the record.
This
I'm
is,
not going to say anything.
This
but
is them.
Use your imagination.
This is them so far. Nothing to show. What is Barry doing up top? Nothing. Nothing. Peck, we all knew he was going to try to take the team on his back with Ricky out. But they went from being sharp, crazy attack, can do anything, can slice anyone, can kill any opponent, to just tucking it back in. That's all I got for them.
Wonderful, vivid imagery there.
Yeah, I think they just things got a little chippy in this game. They got a little frustrated, I think, with the way that the game was going, especially at 1-0 down. And they did get it back to 1-1 right before halftime, but they didn't really push on from there. Clearly, they're missing Paintsill. Peck hasn't looked amazing without having Joveljic and Paintsill and Puig all next to him, and he's starting to look really frustrated too. So yeah, LA Galaxy, they I think it's a great comparison there, David. They look dull. They look a shadow of themselves for sure.
Thank you, Gavin. I'll bring more weapons next time.
This podcast not sponsored by any sort of weapon company, and I don't think it will be. But David is here to keep us, on our toes. Okay, guys, this is the last match of the weekend, and then maybe we'll hit on any other topics before we get out of here. Houston. Poor Houston. They advertise that Messi is coming to Houston, and then they put out a public apology, and Messi says, I'm resting for load management purposes in game 2 of the MLS season. And then not only does Houston say we're going to give complimentary tickets to the people who bought tickets for this, but now the people who got complimentary tickets probably don't want to go back because they watched a 4-1 beatdown of Houston by a Messi-less Miami.
Argentina came to play against Guatemala in the FedEx Stadium here in Washington, D.C. last year. I promise you that it never crossed my mind that I was going to go see Messi play. I was going to go see my team play, win or lose. And if Messi would have canceled, I would have gone. If Di Maria would have canceled, I still would have gone. It's your fault for buying a ticket for one player. It's your fault for having that illusion. It's your fault for wanting to spend $5,000. It's your fault for wanting to drive 10 hours. It's all your fault. People need to start holding themselves accountable and responsible for the stupid decisions they make. And how much of a amateur team do you look apologizing to the fans? Never, ever you're going to see that in the European League. Ever. Not through Europe, nowhere are you going to see that. It's embarrassing for a professional team to issue an apology because Messi didn't win, because somebody who drove 10 hours away decided to spend $5,000 on a ticket, decided to drive. That's their decision. The club has nothing to do with that. And now you're over here spending money that you were not going to supposed to spend on. Here's a complimentary ticket. Please come back. Here's a complimentary ticket. Please come back. So you gained some money with the tickets, then you lost some money over here in revenue. Like it was dumb. It was dumb. It was MLS teams every now and then do something so dumb that humiliates the league, and it becomes a trend all over the world. And you saw it. Everyone was talking about it. People that don't tune into MLS was talking about it. Meme pages were talking about it, and rightfully so. And I'm sorry, Dynamo, you might take our media credentials away, but it has to be said. We're not going to pat you in the back and be like, "Hey, buddy, great job giving them extra tickets." No, it's people and their decision. That's my take.
I think I think that's fair, but to give the other point of view, Houston and all MLS teams that are hosting Inter Miami are marking up ticket prices when Miami's coming to town because they know that the demand is there and that people will pay to see a player of Messi's status, as well as Suarez and Busquets and Jordi Alba, but definitely Messi. And so when you start doing that, when you are, I mean, it's not price gouging, that's not the definition, but like when you are marking up prices for that player and through no fault of their own, that doesn't happen. People are going to be upset and say, "You told us that Messi was coming. I paid you $150 for one seat, and I came to this game and I didn't even get to see Messi. And that was the one thing that I paid you money for." And so it's a hard thing from Houston's side. I think it would have been better if they just would have done nothing and said nothing and just kind of been the bad guys in this scenario, just like every team is, and just kind of take the money and hey, like you said, David, you guys took the risk. You guys took the risk of a player not being able to show up for whatever reason. Players don't play all the time, and that's the risk with Messi at this age. Is that Miami have a long season ahead of them, and they want him to be as healthy as possible. They're playing what 4 games in 12 days. That's the hype around it. I mean, so are a lot of other teams, but like with Messi at his age and Suarez at his age, I mean, I was even surprised Suarez was out there for the full 90. Uh, they're gonna do load management because they can't afford to lose him like they lost him last season. So, long story short, everyone's already heard this spiel a million times. It's on the fans who paid the money, but it's a little bit on the teams for marking up prices as well. It's a hard balance.
Devil's advocate. If teams sell all the tickets for $10 and say, "Come watch Messi," $10 get you in the door, and someone scalps the tickets, right? Sells a ton of them buys them all at $10, sells a ton of them at $250 each. Would you rather that money go to the scalper or the team? Some people would say the team. Some people would say the scalper and be like, "Oh, good business decision. They took the risk with their money, and so they should make the profit off of it."
Well,
in the eyes of the team, I'm sure they would rather have the money.
Well, yeah, for sure. But like, there's going to be scalpers either way, and so I get what you're saying, but they're not going to. The fact that they mark it up at all means that they get more money at a minimum. And so that's where I think the discussion comes in internally as a club. Do we gift people who paid this extra money an extra match or not? I don't think they should have, personally. That's my take. But I can see how they landed on that decision.
I tweeted, I said, every MLS team has one of these drafted. I got a response from a Cincy fan, actually. And I'll make the 3 points he made. A, to Gavin's point, no ticket should be priced by who the opponent is. Right? B, if you buy a ticket to watch a specific player who isn't guaranteed to play, you don't deserve a free ticket because when he doesn't show up. And C, offering a free ticket because an opponent isn't playing is so lame. It's the truth. It's the damn truth.
They went 3 for 3 on that one, in my opinion.
All right, I'm just gonna give him a shout out. Just Miller Logan's 32. In case you're listening, got it spot on.
There you go. Hey, you guys want to talk about the game at all?
It's Miami. Miami plays well without Messi. We saw it last.
Yeah,
we saw it again
they do.
this year.
And Houston's a bad team this year. There we go.
Ben
Simple as
Olsen is
that.
back, baby. Yeah.
David, does it feel good to be watching Ben Olsen from the outside instead of on the
Oh, it's
inside?
so great seeing Ben Olsen. I'm sorry, Dynamo fans, but yeah. No, sorry. Well, it's hurt my knee here. I think we all talked about it in the offseason, losing Herrera, okay, good, but then losing Carrasquilla, it was gonna hurt them a lot, and it's the midfield has been hurting the Dynamo. I mean, then Miami, like I think it was Gavin who pointed this out a few weeks ago when we were doing the preview. They have they have depth now in the roster, and players are stepping up.
For sure. I like Allende. I thought he stepped up big in this game with Messi out. Yeah, Segovia took all the headlines. Suarez, I think, won Player of the Week with his 3 assists and 1 goal performance. But Allende,
ridiculous. There's a hat trick player
I know,
in Ty Baribo.
I know. They just didn't like that.
Give it to the hat trick player. How often do you see hat tricks? Come on.
I don't know, man. It's ridiculous.
Well, look, I'm a Cincy fan. We lost to Philly. Give Ty Baribo player of the match day.
Absolutely deserves it. He'll just have to go and win MVP. Whatever.
Yeah, he's gonna go get Golden Boot or something with like what? He's 5 goals in 2 matches now. Yeah, he's gonna probably go even more than that at the pace he's doing. He's gonna be like 60 something goals.
I think they said he's in the 80s if he were to keep up this pace. Obviously unsustainable.
Incredible.
So Allende for me though, that second goal was just incredible technique, and just overall, I think he stepped up big in the attack. Segovia had a great game in the midfield, and just a lot of players not named Lionel Messi stepping up in this game. On the Houston side, they had an opportunity with Aliu. They didn't take it, and that was it. You know, they gift the first goal to Inter Miami through some bad play on the left side, and okay, that can happen. It's really not a great idea because you want to keep them to 0 goals because they don't have Messi. But instead, you gift them the goal early on. Now you're chasing the game. The rest is history. If you're going to be chasing the game, at least score your chances. And they did not do that.
Yeah. Well, hey, guys, that takes us to the end of our matches. I'm going to put both of you on the spot here just real quick before we wrap up. Next regular season matches rolling around on Saturday, March 8th. What's your top match to watch and why? And David, please, you go first. We don't want Gavin to go first on this one. I want to make sure you feel like you're getting the recognition you deserve.
Sounders LAFC. I think it's both teams need to show what they have. Both teams, Sounders didn't do so well against RSL. Gavin made a good point to my point where they have enough of a depth where some of the bench players can be starters for the Sounders. And LAFC, we just talked about them, right? Their attack hasn't been the best. We all have them either 1 or 2 in the West. So it should be a pretty nice preview to see how they perform. So that's one of the games I want to look forward to. And hopefully De La Vega can show up, man. This is the kind of games where someone like that needs to step up, take over, and who knows, some scouts from here might be watching some of these games.
Gavin, what about you?
Yeah, the game calling my name is Atlanta versus New York Red Bulls. Man, two.
It's gonna be mine.
Yeah,
too.
sorry, two teams with an attack that on paper can do something. Forsberg and Choupo-Moting for New York Red Bulls, Latte Loth and Almiron for Atlanta United. I think, and they're obviously rivals. I think it's going to be a really, really good matchup, hopefully.
I'm torn between 2, and I'm not picking it. I'm going to give an honorable mention to DC United versus Sporting Kansas City because I think that could be a very interesting match to play out.
Undefeated,
baby. The one I'm sitting on is actually New England as they host Philadelphia, because just based on what's been going on these first 2 weeks, New England in shambles, the disgruntlement between coaching staff that is maybe bubbling and we're starting to see, and then a red hot Philadelphia side, I think you could see a potential like demolition, seeing like a 6-0, 7-0, like one of those wins that just completely tears a team down where just everyone implodes because it's that bad of a performance. And I think you could very well see it. So that's one that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on.
Philly
All right.
have a recent history of doing 5s and 6s a couple of years ago.
David knows that one well. David is gonna pull his LA Galaxy comparison tool back out to me if I say that again.
No, you're right. I was gonna say when you were talking about New England, it could be I don't know. Is it an upset right now based on how they're performing if New England beats the Union?
Yes, the New England beating anybody would be an upset right now.
It could be an upset, right? One of those. I don't know if you guys seen it, but every week I'm trying to do a poll, right? Well, which one's the most surprising result? It could be an upset, or it could be like they could get shredded. They could get torn apart and can get Caleb on the hot seat.
Caleb will not be on the hot seat, but it would be hilarious if he were. If, like, after investing all this money that they decided to sack Porter, it would be the absolute funniest thing in my mind from a standpoint of like complete incompetence.
There's a good coach out there, guys, that's still available. A well-respected coach.
Danny Sartini's available.
James Curtin's available.
I don't know if Curtin would go to New England.
I'm just saying, sometimes you got to try things that you wouldn't try before.
Fair enough. Well, hey, on that sage wisdom, if you are someone who enjoys pizza, give yourself a chance to enjoy some pineapple on pizza. I promise you it's a wonderful combination. You heard it here first from David specifically, who you can find on the MLS Now podcast handle on social media. And remember, we're there on, Twitter, we're there on Blue Sky, we're there on Instagram, we've got the Discord. So tons of different ways to follow us, to get in touch. Feel free to reach out specifically to David. Let him know your thoughts on pineapple on pizza. You can find Gavin on social media at LionsBlog1. And then you can find myself on social media at Mr. Danger Russ. So with that said, Gavin, David, listeners, everyone, thank you so much, as always, for listening. Thank you for being here. And guys, listeners, see y'all next time.
Till next time.